photo?
Yes, we're live.
Okay.
We're
starting. Hi everyone out in internet land. Yeah. So I guess I just in case you didn't know, so I'm Akiva. This is Jacinta, and then we're from Hacker Farm, which is like kind of an experimental hackerspace out in the countryside of Japan. So like it's the original idea was that it's a communal hackerspace where it's actually live in, like people would live there in one place. Yeah, and I'll explain how it's evolved since then, like a bit more. But anyways, yeah, and we're here in Hong Kong at the amazing Maker Bay to hang out and talk about what we do, and hopefully try and weasel our way into Maker Bay. So. So this first picture is a communal rice planting event that we just did last week with the locals in the area. And so one of the things that we do a lot of is kind of community outreach. So we work with the locals because most of the a lot of you probably have heard that in Japan the population is aging. And so most of the rice farmers are 70 is kind of young, so it's 80 plus. And so they're trying to pass on their knowledge, and they're also trying to maintain traditional Japanese farming methods. So we help out with them because it's too much for them. Yeah. So this is the question that we always get: what is Hacker Farm? And so these are also the rice terraces. And so this is just right next to us, about 5 minutes away by car. But like I said, it's the original idea was kind of a hackerspace in the countryside. Is actually kind of So I'm fascinated with hackerspaces with context. So because we started Tokyo Hackerspace in Japan, and it was a hackerspace, but it was just kind of a free for all. And so kind of without any structure, then people would just do a lot of projects, which would just be kind of a celebration of technology, but then with no purpose. And so the second hackerspace that I helped out on was Hacker Moms in Oakland, which is a hackerspace for moms. And then that was amazing because the people that participated in Hacker Moms, they're all mothers that felt that had children, and they felt like they couldn't do anything because they had to take care of their child all the time, but they all had the same problems they didn't realize. But anyways, so in Hacker Moms, everybody was so passionate about the hackerspace that then I thought, okay, well it's interesting to see hackerspace with context. And so this was the third hackerspace that I tried with a bunch of friends, and Jacinta also helped out with Tokyo Hackerspace, and then you were helped out with Dim Sum Labs.
Here as well, and then
Sorry, I think yeah. So and I think it's interesting because we run into a lot because we're on the countryside. Then we all the projects kind of are more geared towards. We set the framework, so most of the projects are geared more towards agriculture and sustainability, renewable energies. And we work actually with a lot of artists and musicians that live out in the countryside because the cost of living in Tokyo is a lot more expensive too. And so we get a lot of creative things going on. But there's so much space. So because the cost of living, the cost of rent out there is so low that there's a lot of abandoned houses and we just take them over. And our typical rent, so we rented a countryside guest house, a traditional Japanese country house, and our rent is about $200 a month for that place, and that's the guest house. And then from that, because Japan has amazing infrastructure, so we set it up with gigabit fiber, and we also have our cafe, and we have 3 buildings for Hacker Farm, and we're about to get our second cafe. And then, and now we're in talks to get a beach house too. Yeah.
But I think also what's interesting with the context is because you're in the countryside, you're surrounded by people that are farmers that don't have necessarily a lot of exposure to kind of the latest cutting edge technology, and they don't care because something needs to get done, and it's just how you can do it. So it's not necessarily high tech projects. It's projects that have, I guess, that are usable for the farming community and or the gaming community, because that's what we're into. So I think the context comes from and then you're starting to talk to people about how they can use these sorts of technologies in every day, whether it's the tribes or farm and stuff. But we'll go through some of the projects and stuff that we're doing.
Yeah. I think like one of the original ideas was that we'd be developing this amazing technology that would revolutionize farming, but most of the farmers we already know how to do that, or that just makes things more complicated.
Or they pull out their phones and go, now which button?
It's like we had an automated water level monitoring system for the rice paddies, so the farmers wouldn't have to walk up the terrace every day to check the rice level, the water levels. And then we were working with there's a company called Digital Garage, like a venture capital firm in Japan, and their engineers were like, yeah, we made the iPhone app, and we made the Android app, and we have the web app, which is based on the latest version of whatever JavaScript libraries they're using. But the farmers were like, they don't have a smartphone, right? So it's how do we access this? And there's all these other issues that we had to deal with. And what happened is there's actually, and we'll talk about this more later, but the technology component actually became very low on the priority list because most of it is actually community building. So they're dealing with social issues and community building. But anyway, so Farm Lab is one of the projects that we work on out there. So Jacinta is heading that one up, so she'll tell you more about it.
So basically we've got a plot of land. There's a lot of land that's available that's not being used because as the farmers get older, it's harder and harder for them to maintain the rice paddy and so on. So a lot of the land they just want to kind of cut the grass to keep it looking manageable. So there's a lot of space out there where you can basically get for free and start doing experiments. So one of the projects I've got is called Farm Lab, where we're creating 5 different systems of farming, and we're going to quantify different things like the moisture of the soil over 2 to 3 years. So we're building up some data of the types of farming and how it influences, or what kind of, metrics it has compared to other ones. So one of the systems is the permaculture system. So we have some raised beds that we've built, and it's surrounding that we're developing a series of kind of technology to be able to help monitor.
Permaculture is also a sustainable agriculture. There's the larger philosophy behind it too.
Yeah, and that's kind of, once you've set it up, there's very minimal maintenance that you need to do. So the idea is that we're sourcing as much of the local materials as possible, so that's kind of the cow manure for the beds, the wamigata for the cover, and so on. So we've started, the season now is to plant, so we've started planting now, and then the next stage for us is to start collecting the data and to quantify how the system works, and also how we can track differences in, say, pH level of the soil over the different crops that we grow across the years.
Oh, and in this picture, so this tractor, Jacinta, and we're working with another guy named Adrian, who's he's a badass in terms of farming. He's a PhD in agricultural engineering and was working for the government in Mexico for 30 years as an agricultural engineer. And so he's just he's schooling us on a lot of different methods, and we're actually not only experimenting with technology, but we're also experimenting with different farming methods, companion planting, etc. in order to grow. But this one, we just put the word out that we were looking for a tractor in the area, and then we were given 3 tractors in various states of repair. So we just started fixing tractors, and we're using them to plow our fields now. It's kind of interesting. That's how it is. There's a lot of abandoned tractors because people aren't farming a lot.
And what we're doing is, so alongside with this, because there's no water source nearby, we're developing an irrigation system. And so once we develop that, then we can talk to the permaculture people who are quite interested in having automated irrigation as well, and some solar-powered technology depending on the needs. So the idea is that we test out different agricultural equipment here, get it working, see how it breaks, and then do workshops for the community out there to teach them how to do it. So we ran one irrigation workshop, which was simply turning on an LED, on and off an LED with Arduino, but then connecting up to the pump. And I was like, oh! So a lot of the community out there don't have big backgrounds in technology. Sometimes it's a bit intimidating, and so helping to kind of show them this is an easy way to get into it, and it's not as scary as it may look.
Turning on and off an LED for them was just like, wow, this is amazing.
So then the pump and the water came out. They're like, oh, so
Wait,
can I have a
I did
irrigation
that?
or?
It's like I did that, and then once they realized it, like I can actually do this, and then the idea started moving.
Yeah, so then it starts firing off ways that they can use it. So there's a place very close to us called Stonebridge, which is a 2 to 3 year permaculture project, and they're setting up some solar panels at one of the guest house. So there's different communities out there that are starting to build up different kinds of projects as well that we collaborate with.
Oh, so and then this is
Yeah.
oh,
So this is one of the systems. Is we've got the potatoes in the straight rows behind Mussa around
good.
here.
this one. So this is kind of an earlier picture, but so like it's more developed right now, but near the gravestones.
Near the gravestones is a herb garden, which is in a hexagon, and then you have different heights for the herbs, so that some of the herbs that want less sun is shaded by the taller herbs above. So you're tracking where the sun goes and you're tracking where the wind is, and then you're building kind of structures around that to kind of maintain or at least sort of make use of the sunlight in a way that encourages the plants to grow.
Oh no, that's like
That's the Italian lady.
the Italian lady's house right next to it. She's awesome. She used to run a restaurant, an Italian restaurant in Tokyo, and then she teaches classical guitar, and her son is a professional Italian guitarist. So, yeah, everybody has their story out there. So.
And so one of the other systems is the Three Sisters from South America. So Adrian's going to be leading that because he wants to experiment with the different companion plantings. So that's a very traditional.
How far is this from Tokyo?
It's an hour and a half. So it's on the Chiba Peninsula, which is kind of on the bay.
So the three sisters are actually 3 different companion planted crops, which were like in the U.S. they were planted by Indians, indigenous American Indians, who taught like the Pilgrims how to plant like squash, corn, maize, and beans, and how they all like complement each other. And then that's what became like the first Thanksgiving in the U.S. before the Americans slaughtered them all.
So
I can say that because I'm American. So.
So this is one of the projects that we're working on at the moment.
Yeah. So for my part on this, I'm mainly handling the technology side of FarmLab, and so this is actually like a prototype of what we're doing, and like what we're building up is we're having a shed, and then we're outfitting it with solar panels, and then those solar panels will power batteries, and those batteries will be running a power grid across the farm, so that we can actually plug devices into, like when we need sensors, when we need sensors or when we need devices, like lighting or etc. Then we can actually just plug it into like a predefined 12-volt power grid. But these are like actually wireless sensors. My specialty is wireless sensor networks, and so this is a device that I use. It's 900 megahertz with a 500 milliwatt front end, so we can get probably, depending on the terrain, then 5 to 10 kilometers. Like actually, depending on how high we can put it up, maybe get like 5 to 10 kilometers of range. But right now, we're also working with like 3G technologies also in order to use in even more remote areas. And all of this will be solar powered.
Because one of the other problems that the farmers face is that they'll lay boar traps, but they're often kilometres up the mountain, and so instead of having to go there every day to check, have a sensor which then tells them if the gate's down, because the boars tend to trample all the food and eat all the food. So one of the things in the site that we've got is to build one to then be able to test it and work with the farmers on that.
And so we're planning on collecting data, as much data as possible, in order to quantify and build up a history in the area, at least to verify the concept, and then take that over to permaculture. So like permaculture and the sustainable agriculture community, they really go a lot by how things feel and what the earth speaks to them about and things like that. And so we're like, okay, well let's put some hard numbers to that also. And because I think they have a lot of really good design ideas and design concepts, and they're really interested to get hard numbers to see like what actually works and what doesn't.
What is this?
So this is actually
Sunlight?
this is yes sunlight per day, and then you can't see it, but then we have like water levels and how that correlates like soil moisture and stuff.
It's evaporation. You can see the evaporation when the clouds overlap.
Yeah. So like you just see like kind of things. And actually, so this one is this is the battery. So the battery, or I don't know, something like that. So it's like we just collect data, and then like we want wiggly lines. Wiggly lines are good.
And then we have to work out what it is.
Yeah.
But what's also interesting is that there's a lot of local knowledge about what to plant when and what eat that plant but don't eat that one because it's poisonous and so on, and a lot of that is starting to get lost because most of the younger people are in Tokyo, and so part of it is to just sort of start gathering and collating that knowledge so that we have a repository.
I'm pretty sure that's the same thing in Hong Kong too, where like probably the really locals like knew a lot about like the local flora and fauna, and like what would be good medicinal herbs and stuff, and then but it might be disappearing now with the younger generations because everything is just so like prepackaged for them.
I'm quite sure it's mostly gone already. Hong Kong's agriculture collapsed already 40 years ago.
Wow.
So most of the people then farming are passed away right now.
Yeah. But I mean, even like because there's so much diversity, like biodiversity, so like like a lot of the natural
Biodiversity is indeed pretty good for considering the whole urban environment.
Yeah.
But farming in Hong Kong is Hong Kong produces 3% of its food, and that includes a remainder of fisheries and some farmers that simply never stopped and haven't died yet. So to say, that's basically the farming that's going on.
Yeah, I mean
Lots of knowledge is lost already.
I think also the traditional farming style in Hong Kong, which has like because of the terrain, it's like pretty unique. I'm sure they have like specific farming styles. But we're seeing that in Japan. Like Japan, most of the nobody wants to be a farmer anymore. It's a hard life and you don't make any money. So it's hard to attract younger people out to the farms. So
is that one of the things you're trying to do?
We're working on revitalization, and then we don't. It's not like something we're purposely trying to do, but we are getting younger people out there because we're doing a lot of technology stuff, and I think they're interested in what we're doing or what the artists are doing, and then they're seeing it. So I think
there are Japanese locals that are trying to do that through different kind of collaborations and rice programs and so on. But I think for us, it's the cost of living in Tokyo is so expensive. It's, it's similar to Hong Kong. So it kind of comes down to where's a space that you have time and resources to be able to develop new projects without spending all your income just trying to maintain rent. And the really unique thing about Japan is it's got really good infrastructure, so you can get really fast internet speeds in a country town that's an hour and a half out of Tokyo. You can get to Narita, you can get to the airport, so the infrastructure really lends itself to that. And I think partly the people that are interested because of the technology projects that are coming in and then seeing that just the difference in lifestyle. So that's good.
This is different in other parts of the country though. A few years ago, 15 years ago now, I was in Nagoya and we were driving down to Suzuka and you would see like a rice plantation, a rice field next to a house. Yeah. So every house had a little rice field. Yeah. Is it still the case or is it being overrun?
It's still the same, but the amount of land is being reduced, particularly in the countryside. So whereas our neighbour, for example, has got 2 or 3 quite big plots of land, and just as people get older, it's just physically not.
Our
they're not
neighbor's
able
like
to.
80 plus, and like
It's fitter than us.
yeah, he's fitter than us. But I mean, he's not planting like huge rice paddies.
So
Yeah.
people have this affinity with rice, I believe, so they want to keep the ancestral growth.
Yeah.
So they're more on a hobby level rather than.
Maybe they'll
Keep
just
going,
what do you call it, for their own needs.
Actually, yeah, in Japan, like most of the rice farmers, like in our area, a lot of people farm rice, do it out of tradition rather than out of economics. Like very few, you can't really make that much money in rice. It's protected and subsidized by the government. You know, there's like heavy rice tariffs to block imports, and it's still they still can't make a living doing it. And because there's a lot of inefficiencies, you know, etc. There's like a big discussion about it when like the TPP, which is the trade, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, like would have opened up like free trade, which would have pretty much killed the rice farmers in Japan. And so there was like a heavy movement to try and stop that. So luckily, that's the only good thing that Trump, I think.
You mentioned they mostly farm in traditional ways. So is it basically a matter of farmers not keeping up to date with methods? Because rice farming, not rice is big business.
No, I mean like you wouldn't plant a rice paddy the traditional way anymore because it's very manual based. But I think in order to maintain that as a point of cultural heritage, I think they try and teach that. So actually, there's I think olives. Anyways, like that's the next thing. But like there's like
A lot of them do it out of, like you're saying, out of like a connection to tradition and history. They're not making. It's not an income.
Not meant to make money.
No. It's just. It's it's syncing up.
Now, if you mentioned that land is virtually free,
Yeah.
aside from why doesn't anybody pick up farming with modern methods?
Yeah.
There has to be money to be made.
like
So as long as your land is fertile and suitable for farming, which I assume it is, there must be money to be made. They do it all over the world, and also in other rather expensive countries, including the US and Europe. Farming is.
I think like
It's just that there's actually not a lot of land though. It's like when Japan is very, very dense with population and with. So when you look at the rice paddy fields, you're not getting acres and acres and acres of rice paddy fields. It's much
more to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they just if they combine the lands together to do
like, I mean
one, then
yes.
it's money
like a co-op kind of.
that kind of works, but then there's also then you have to get into the supply chain, which there's heavy distribution. So basically, all the agriculture in Japan is controlled by JA, which is Japan Agriculture, and that's like a political organization that sets the standard of how things need to be grown, and they'll set the price on how much you can sell, how much you can sell it for. And then so you buy the seeds and the pesticides from JA, and you grow it the way they say it, and then they'll buy it for you at a certain price. And then after that, it gets into the distribution chain. And within the distribution chain is like 2 or 3 layers before it hits the retail outlets. So by the time you actually purchase it from the retail outlets, you're paying like 5 to 6 times the actual cost that the farmer gets. I mean, it's like the same as the manufacturing supply chain. So like, I mean, because you can grow like the lettuce and stuff, but then it would have to be able to survive the whole supply chain in order to get through. And then like if your costs aren't like rock bottom, then you'll be growing like very high end lettuce. And so if you do that, then you have to move outside the supply chain and maybe sell one-on-one to the restaurants. And then you have to deal with your logistics yourself then. And so, like, hiring drivers and stuff like that.
What they do around our areas, they've got Minami no Sato, which is like a local co-op. And that's because Chiba, where it is quite scenic. There's a tourist route. So buses will come from the city and they'll go to the co-op and they'll buy the fresh produce. So there's kind of a little bit of a revenue stream coming in there just through tourism. But it's not again, like it's not a lot.
Well, you mentioned that the farm price versus the shop price effect of 5.
Yeah.
That is actually quite normal in Western agriculture as well.
Yeah.
So that should not be so much a problem.
Well, I mean, because
it's more like what I do here. You say, JA says you have to farm it this way, you have to grow it this way.
Oh, yeah.
That might be a much bigger project.
Well, I think you would also need scale in order to.
I mean, you have big scale. You can mechanize.
Yeah.
Use modern methods.
If you ran a farm professionally, then you'd want to scale it up, and then and then you'd have like the market for JA, and then you might have like a small boutique market that you sell at the organic, or like.
But if they require you to plant manually and do everything the traditional way.
Well, that's if you want to sell it to the JA chain, and JA is like kind of the way you get to the distribution chain thing.
There's no way, no other way in supermarkets.
So that's the thing is like Japan works that way, and so like how do you break down those kind of it's probably the same in a lot of things. Like if you wanted to get into like say Walmart, you probably have to go through a specific distributor in order to get into a retailer like that.
Walmart actually buys a lot direct. So I think it costs down.
I would probably disagree. They probably either buy through distributors or they work with like specific factories that will manufacture a lot of like they have a wide catalog.
They're infamous for that part actually.
So-
They try to basically have a whole factory work for them and then try to cut the price. That's how Walmart keeps their prices down. Cut out the middle layer.
I mean, we can talk about retail if you want. But
only was the JA.
But anyway, so these are like some people from Fab Cafe in Tokyo who came down, and then so this is one of the traditional rice farmers, and then he's teaching them and he's really happy to see the young people coming and learning, and he's teaching them how to plant rice by hand, which is how the Japanese people traditionally planted rice, and then just in bare feet by hand, and and he's like 84 years old, but he's a total badass. Like he'll just plant the whole field.
They were a little bit late, so they had to leave a couple of meters so that they actually had a chance to plant.
Oh, yeah.
Because otherwise they would have been done.
We're like, so now it's like the city people, and like city people we'll like leave in the morning and we'll get there like when the rice planting starts. They didn't take into account like traffic and stuff like that. And then like total like city slickers, like they get in, it's like, oh, it's like really squishy. It's like, yes, mud.
But also what's interesting is is it Pasadena? What's the building in Tokyo where they're actually growing rice inside? And so when you look at the setup, they've got all the grow lights and so on. And we were,
but they're using like almost like one megawatt hour of energy per month in order to grow the rice, which is like, I think, in my opinion, is horribly inefficient. Because because if you just factor in the electricity cost in order to grow the rice, it'd be like, this might yield like maybe one or two families of four for a year, and then but yeah, it's just.
But this is in the city, this is right near Tokyo Station.
So like
It's marketing.
It's basically it's more of like it's kind of just to show like, oh, we're like a green company, so like it's kind of greenwashing, but but it's kind of cool. This is a reception, and so you see like squash going down from the ceiling. So and then they have a lot of experiments with the LED light. These are laser diode lighting with laser diodes, which is really interesting.
Making holes in it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's actually because they took off the collimator, so that it's like it's still like monochromatic, but then and it's still powerful, but it's not like focused.
Oh.
And then so you're actually able to penetrate the canopy, so you can actually get more like full growth. Is what they say. I don't know. But sorry. So it's pretty interesting. I used to not really be like involved in that kind of thing, and now like that stuff fascinates me.
When did it click?
Actually, so I moved to the countryside. I was burned out being in the city. There was like Safecast was a project that I was working on before, which is like radiation monitoring after Fukushima. And then like we did a build out of like 350 radiation sensors across Japan that were sending data to the internet, so there'd be like open data so people could check the radiation levels near their house. Because in 2012, people were really concerned about that. And then after we finished the rollout, it was like this horrible. I mean, it was the project was great, but then like we got sponsored by SoftBank for like $1 million to do this build out. And once money became involved, and then there's this horrible politics involved, and there's all these things, like the university got involved, and basically they took all their money and kind of mixed it into their research budget. So, and then we'd have to just make requests for it, and all. It's just like this horrible thing. And so by the end of it, I was just like, fuck all this, and then and I wanted to start. Huh? Yeah. So finally I just decided I want to just have a place in the countryside and start like learning how to make cheese. And so that turned into, and then like me and two other guys. So one guy was a farmer, And that's Chris Harrington, who you talked to. And the other guy is a chef in Tokyo who wanted a place to like do his smoked charcuterie, like smoked pork products like bacon and sausages and stuff.
Are you going to be getting burned out in the countryside eventually? Do you think it is possible to get burned out in the countryside?
I mean, yeah, I like people that were locally born there, like just get sick of the countryside. It's like,
There's too many.
I would also say your world can shrink, and that's not necessarily the thing. Well, I think that stepping out to see bigger things is really important. At the same time, being able to, because the pace is slower, and it's just a different kind of. So you still like. I'm probably more productive out there, but feel yet less kind of because there's just not. There's just a different pace. But if you stayed only there, then you become very myopic, and that's not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah. If all you know is the countryside and that's your whole world, then that's also a problem. Because, and one thing we try and focus on is, especially because we're trying to build up the local economy and through like various things. Like so, we have the Hacker Farm Shenzhen tours where we teach people how to do import-export and then also manufacturing.
Because one of the things, sorry to interrupt, but one of the things out there is that if you move out there, there's no businesses out there to get a job. So it's either work remotely or have your own business where you can spend the time there. So how do you build up something that sustains people financially as well as?
I mean, yeah, and a lot of people that move out there, they might be burned out, but a lot of them are from like business companies, and not so many people have their own businesses, and so we actually have to kind of teach people, especially people that have come out of working for other companies for a long time. We have to teach them how to market themselves, brand themselves, and also how they would set up their own company and like run things as a business. And so that's like a big shift in thinking for them. Whereas like, before everything was handed to them, now they kind of have to like really organize themselves and think in a different way.
So one of the things we did last year and then again this year was take a group around Shenzhen to some factories and also some wholesale markets just to introduce them to the manufacturing ecosystem there so that they can start manufacturing their own products. But then this year it was more focused on the wholesale markets and the trading import-export because it's a little bit easier entry point than jumping straight to manufacturing.
Yeah, actually because manufacturing, so I can give a talk on just this alone. But yeah, because manufacturing requires so many things. So you have the sourcing, you have the sourcing, and then you're prototyping, and then the production, quality control, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas like if you just do import-export, so you just go and source stuff from the wholesale market, and from there then you worry about logistics and then marketing and sales, and then so it's a smaller domain to start out with. And like right now, we've learned that like we try and teach people how to focus on the first of all focus on the marketing and sales, like learn how to sell stuff, and then after that try and design their own products. And that was like the big lesson because then they would design stuff, and then afterwards they're like, how come nobody's buying it? It's like are you marketing it, or they just have no understanding, no concept of like say the marketing and sales side of things. And so now we're like thinking it's better to just get them product, like for them to get product, and then start marketing and selling it. And if they're able to sell that product, then they can slowly maybe private label it, and then after that start manufacturing their own product, as long as they understand like who their audience is and how they're going to sell. And so that's what the big revelation for us, and especially dealing with this over and over again. So.
And then the other thing for the projects, the idea is that they become financially sustainable, whether that's through workshops and or selling kits and so on, so that there's kind of a mechanism to keep the project going and have funds to spend when you need to.
Okay. So I think so another thing that we're doing is we're setting up sister hackerspaces, and so we're working with like people that are either setting up a hackerspace or want to set up hackerspaces. And so Jacinta and I were doing stuff out in Dharamsala, India, which is in the Himalayas. And we were working with the Tibetan community out there, and also we set up a hacker conference, an annual hacker conference out there called Hill Hacks. And then, and from that, then our friend would come down, and he stayed with us at Hacker Farm for a while, and now he went back up there, and he's setting up a hackerspace out in Dharamsala. And so that's going to be one of our first sister hackerspaces. and we're organizing annual trips out to Dharamsala, India, to like help them out. Like their context is that they are very resource constrained out in the Himalayas, and so they need to repair and reuse things as much as possible. And so that's we're helping them set up a repair lab, bringing out tools and equipment over there, and just like visiting out there. So.
Can I ask you, so, where do you buy your tools from? You buy them from China and you ship them to India, or you buy them in India?
Oh no, we buy them from China because like in India they buy them from China too, and then but when you buy them in India you're paying for the shipping plus the markup, and plus like it's like you don't know like kind of the provenance of the tools, like what the quality is, etc. So a lot of, like I buy a lot of stuff out there that just breaks like almost immediately, and that's the problem in Dharamsala is a lot of low quality stuff makes it out there, and then it's broken, and then so the idea. Because it's not easy to throw stuff away in the Himalayas. Like, in fact, that area, which is like Himachal Pradesh, is the government is so messed up that it's difficult even for trash trucks to go up there. And so what happens is the trash bins, they just end up getting overflowing, and then you have cows and monkeys just like eating all the trash all the time and like eating like just, you know, and it's actually not bad for monkeys and cows as well as like the environment. So there's like a huge trash problem in Dharamsala. So one way to prevent that is to start repairing things and try and reuse those things.
That's where like how many 30 laptops in the suitcase as you come through India.
So, we brought like a lot of like laptops to teach, but also like we were trying to help set up a repair lab to teach like repairing cell phones, repairing power supplies. Like MacBook power supplies are like a big thing that go out there, and that's all the hippies that visit Dharamsala have their Macs, and then but the power situation is so bad. Like there's so many power surges because the guy next to them is arc welding directly off the supply lines, and so they blow out their adapters. And so like teaching people how to repair MacBook power supplies is actually a lucrative business. So like that could supply like a couple of Tibetans or local Himachali like at work for like a while. So we're setting that up. It's like, so we do a lot of work with Tibetan Children's Village, and we have like a lot of connections there. And then this is actually one area we're hoping to like work together with MakerBay, because then if you guys are interested, then we can work together too, and then maybe we have like a group trip out to Dharamsala and then work on some stuff out there. Like out in the Himalayas, there's a lot of different projects that can be done, and a lot of issues that you wouldn't necessarily find in this area. So there's a lot of interesting projects. So, and then, so we have a lot of kids, like children's education is one, because they have like the education isn't very good. Like they're still, like in Tibetan Children's Village, like most of the Tibetan refugees are from, like when China annexed Tibet, and then like you had the big fleeing of refugees, then basically time stopped for them, and they're still teaching, like it was like 1960 something. And so, like when you see it, man, they're completely unprepared for like the world outside. And so, one thing is like, it's good to expose the kids at least to some of the stuff that's happening outside. And then even like there's a lot of the monk children that are really kind of curious about like what's happening in the world outside also. So it's really fun to work with. And then another one is they're trying to provide jobs for the local Tibetans, and so they have like handmade recycled paper workshops, and so they make their own. Recycled paper and a lot of things out of the recycled paper, but they don't really have a market for it, so it's just subsidized by the Tibetan government the Tibetan government in exile. And so I think there's a lot of interesting things. So Jacinta as a publisher is already has a lot of things that she could do with the paper. But I think we could probably help them find markets outside of Dharamsala for their stuff.
You can bring things in. You can take things out as well easily.
I mean, India, India is just by the book. So by the book with an asterisk. So you just have to be, like for paper, I don't think it's a problem.
And it depends on the quantity and that kind of stuff. So it's,
And exporting isn't that bad. I think importing becomes very difficult in India. And so like bringing the stuff in, like we bring just tons, like a lot of batteries and like just like electronic parts, and then so that gets scrutinized heavily, and then they say it's taxable, and like and it get held up in customs for weeks. So I don't know if you know Freeman. You know Freeman that comes through once in a while?
Freeman?
Oh. He's the electric unicycle guy. So that's the other electric unicycle guy. So
Yes, okay.
there's like Freeman, he's like the electric unicycle evangelist from Bangalore.
Yes.
So, but he, like we worked together on a lot of projects, and one of them was teaching kids out there how to do like Android programming. So, you know, like just basic Android programs. So we bought like 30 Android Nexus 7 tablets, and then had them sent to India, and like they didn't get out of customs for a year and a half. So we completely missed like the whole window for like 2 years. And then, like, for like two sessions, and then finally it's like, oh, we got them through. Like at least the kids could use them to read or something. And then so that's yeah. But anyways, and then so we also do a lot of technology projects. Not a lot, but like we do technology projects out there. So this was one where we monitor the water levels in the water supply cisterns for the Tibetan schools for the monks. And so like we have it connected to we have like this would be like the wireless node, and then that would be monitoring the water level, and it connects to an internet internet connected router, and from there then we send the data up to like a server, and then they're able to check it on their smartphones or tablets.
Freaklabs is your company.
Oh yeah. So that's like for Freaklabs, then the specialty is environmental monitoring. So I do a lot of like work in like this like I do a lot of outdoor wireless nodes. So which is a lot different from like kind of like I think the current definition of IoT in Silicon Valley is like anything with Bluetooth low energy. Is like so like anything that connects to my cell phone. So like that's why. But so I do it in a different way where I do like kind of large spaces and outdoors. So there's like a different set of issues that you have to deal with. So, but yeah, so these are just like kind of a summary of the Sister Hackerspaces program. The first two are going to be Dromsla and hopefully Mexico. So from this year, we're starting an annual trip to Mexico. And we'll be working with fair trade farms to do like vanilla, chocolate, coffee, and just like local indigenous organic farms. And then the goal is to maybe establish a hackerspace in rural Mexico and then have like an annual trip out there.
And part of the connection with Mexico is that Adrian, who also works on the Farm Lab project, has land in Mexico and is quite entrenched in the community out there. And so he came on the last Shenzhen tour to look at how he could set up a shuttle from Shenzhen to Mexico for cheaper parts, similar to how we have one coming out to Japan.
So, but I think it'd be interesting because with this like sister hackerspaces, then like at Hacker Farm, anybody that say wants to go to Dromsla immediately has a network of people there that they can hang out with or understand the local like whatever's happening locally, and hopefully the same thing for Mexico, like more technically southern Mexico and Veracruz. Where like you can actually go there if you're interested in like the agriculture or or like growing coffee or you're like a coffee nerd or whatever, and then you immediately have like a network of people, and so that'd be an interesting thing to maybe do with MakerBay too, where there's like some people that kind of want to go to a different country and see like the real like the realities of it, and like especially like the context that they're in.
But the idea also is that it's kind of themed, so if you have a particular interest in a particular area, then you're stepping into not only the hackerspace community, but people that are interested in working in that area as well.
There is this project that we are working on in Cambodia, which is also an agriculture-centered makerspace.
Oh, okay.
So
That's
it's
nice.
super.
Oh, that'd be. We'd like to hear more about it because like Cambodia is like a big rice growing area too. So I think like we're definitely building up a lot of contacts in like kind of rice technology type things.
Rice tech.
Actually, yeah, Tech Rice was a placeholder name as we think about a better name for it, and then it just stuck. But we're folding all of that into Farm Lab. I think Farm Lab is more like the larger.
What's the project in Cambodia?
Sure. So actually, originally it was it used to be I think there used to be like 3D printing in Cambodia. There were two American guys that just started in Cambodia, and they were from Cambodian descent. And then they thought, Cambodia doesn't have so much access to manufacturing, so maybe 3D printing could actually help to leapfrog a lot of those small-scale solutions. And then they started to talk to another girl who had the interest from the government to build like an incubator for technology. And so they looked into, okay, well, we can do 3D printing, maybe there's government funding, and they're thinking, what can we do that could be really useful? And so the government perspective was like IoT and all those like stuff, and it had no relevance locally. And so then, on the other hand, when the community side was like, well, in Cambodia is still a very agricultural-based economy, and that's still like a hard livelihood. It's a hard lifestyle. So maybe there's lots of innovation to be done in this area. And so that's the reason why the project has been going more and more, less and less from IoT and as in traditional like wearables, which are pointless maybe over there, and more into agriculture, which may be more relevant to them. So because we have access to the tools, maybe actually more hand tools, more so than electronic tools in that case, then we'll be partnering with them. So we are consulting for them. We got a grant to consult for them. They are completely free. They'll be at the end of the day, they do whatever they want. We're just going there to help them to set it up and build the back end and develop strategies to build a community and methodology to resolve problems. Which one may be mostly wrong. You know?
We can talk to you about that. So like the last summary page, and you'll see like, there's like
we're coming to help you.
It's like the technologist's burden. Like, never fear, everyone. We're here. Where can I plug my laptop in? It's like, oh crap. So yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, and like the big takeaway for us for Hackathon is that like technology isn't really a priority. Technology is a tool, like one of the many tools that you can use, but also like kind of community, like social adhesion. There's a lot of things. A lot of it is very like personal. Like there's the social issues that almost like drive, that are much more important than like than having even like the best technology.
Is that something you also observed with Safecasts? Is that also true with Safecasts?
Safecast was, I think, Safecast. I mean, everything in my opinion boils down to social issues, like people issues, like whether or not even projects do well comes down to like the people that are involved. I think Safecast was fun and it was good, and everybody had the right frame of mind. But I mean, like, we got a lot of like press, so there was a point where people would argue about who gets to do the New York Times interview, and and I'd be like, and this would be happening like I'd just be like in my lab trying to build stuff to keep up, with like kind of like the schedule that we set in order to unlock the funding. But oh, sorry.
Is it okay to have it air?
Oh, okay. I mean, like, it's
just want to protect.
It's like Safecast behind the scenes.
Let's change the subject while we're at it.
Because we were also looking to Safecast, and
it's like, so anyways, I was
we have provided those tools. The classes.
The voice changer.
Yeah. Sorry.
No,
I'm
it's
just overthinking.
Maybe next question. What is the overlap with what you do and the overlaps and differences with open source ecology?
Actually, we contacted them before. We were talking a little bit, but I guess we haven't really talked to them that much. I think, like, we didn't actually, up until recently, we didn't have people that were very strong on the mechanical side. So now that Adrian is there, like, he's like the
Mechanical guy.
Well, he's an agricultural engineer, but then he also is like, he does like the big mechanical projects, or like his projects are just like on a huge scale. Like we're like showing, so this is how you control a water pump in irrigation, and it's like and like little squirts of water come out. And then he's like, well, how can we irrigate this like 5-acre field with this?
He's building a seesaw pump.
He does like so he would be like. He would take the tractors apart and like be like welding them and shit like that, and like kind of where we'd be like okay maybe like here try this one. So like but yeah, so open source ecology, I think they're doing a lot and they're doing a lot of open source stuff. But I mean, like for us, like the farm and field equipment is almost free. Even if we bought it like so the farm tractors new might be a couple $1,000s, but like for the hand tractors, then we buying them used in like kind of semi-decent condition is like $200 or $300, and so that's not a big problem. And then you can augment them. So one of Adrian's things that he does is like so in Guangzhou that we're looking at the heavy-duty winches because we can just like kind of plant a pole and attach a winch to it. And we have a winch pull the hand tractors, and then that way we can go through like difficult terrain with just like the chisel head. So I mean like so you can actually augment all that stuff too. So, I mean I think open source ecology, they have like really good stuff, but so far I think we're able. This is where the boundary between do you really need that technology or so this is like where the balance is like how important is it to have this technology? And I'd say it's not it's not critical technology to have. So in our area, we don't have a shortage of equipment. So I mean, like I think it's interesting, but like it depends. It might be different in Cambodia where it's all manual and they benefit a lot from any kind of automation. So. But anyways, yeah, sorry. I'm talking too much, so I'll try and get it.
We asked you to talk.
Talking too much.
And so this is a recent project, the World Bank sanitation project, and so we're working with the World Bank in order to monitor illegal dumping in Egypt, like into the Nile River. And so we're working with the government and like for all the sanitation projects. This is my first reel. It's like now it's good because I've lived in an agricultural area and I'm not scared of poop anymore. So because there's a lot of poop involved in this project, and it's like I mean it sucks. Like kind of you might end up getting like human waste on your hands sometimes. And it's not like great, but at least it doesn't freak me out anymore. So like. But it's
I have so many questions.
But yeah, so this is like one of the villages that so what happens is
What is he doing to his head?
he's picking ticks out. No, I'm just kidding. He's talking. He's one of the residents of this local village. This is a canal that goes to the Nile River, and then and he lives in this area. And basically, the people on this side of the canal are able to be connected to the sewage network. So they have like toilets that actually flush, and it goes out to a treatment facility. Yeah, because of Egyptian law, they're not allowed to run any sewage over a canal or anything that goes into the Nile River. And so they actually have to get septic tanks. And so the people on this side of the river, they basically pay a water fee of like 20 Egyptian pounds per month in order to get like their sewage handled. People on this side of the river, because they don't have that, they have to pay to get their septic tanks emptied 3 times a month, and it's about 120 Egyptian pounds a month, or 6x increase in fees. And so this guy is complaining because the government minister of sanitation came with us in order to includes everything downstream. And the guys, they know that it's illegal, but they don't know that it's like that bad. And so like, yeah, sure, everybody does it. And they just do it out in the open. So actually, I have like pictures of it. So like, this is them dumping it directly into the canals that go to the Nile River. And that's an illegal dumping scenario. So so what we're doing is we're outfitting tracking devices onto these devices. And basically, the government is going to make it mandatory in that area for anyone that wants to be licensed as sanitation to have these tracking devices on them, and we monitor the sewage level and also the GPS location via 3G networks. And then we track it, and we see if we can find out if stuff is being illegally dumped. And the reason why the government is working with us is because they'll unlock X whatever millions of funding from the World Bank if they can reach specific goals of this many people are connected to a properly treated sewage system. So
this kind of contract is really different. If you get this kind of contract, you get killed. Sorry, we missed the line. We have 1 million tons of shit. We're going to kill you.
It's actually this project is really interesting because it's because I was saying that they can't connect to so one side of the village can connect to the sewage system. Another village on the other side of the canal can't connect it to septic tanks. But then they actually can. What they're trying to do then is create a micro sewage system, a micro sewage grid that empties into a large communal septic tank, and that one is going to be serviced by these trucks and then monitored. And so,
have they already created that micro sewage?
No, they're starting on it, but first we're going to do the pilot. So the pilot's hopefully in June. We'll start doing the pilots stuff. But yeah, so that's pretty interesting. So that's another project that comes up. So this gets into some of the IoT stuff and whatever. But yeah, it's the Internet of shit. So yeah, and then this is just kind of the rough idea. The water level sensor, all the processing, and then we'll have the antennas and the solar panels. So that's currently the initial.
Looks so easy.
How much does that cost? Things like that, the sensor.
Oh, okay, so let's see, for just the bare materials cost, this is with the 3G module and basically all the processing subcomponents. So this is not including the level sensor. But yeah, the 3G module is about $30, and then the rest components. So this whole so outside of this, then everything else is about $10, including the enclosure. So $40, $50, something like that. And then beyond that, then currently the level sensors we're using are industrial grade, so they're $100. But then we're actually going to try and make them ourselves too. And then so we're starting out with industrial sensors because they're not working. And then we're going to work backwards and slowly kind of replace them with our own sensors, which they cost $2 to $3 to make from parts in Shenzhen. And then and we'll try and bring down the BOM cost from there. So actually we can this is a high-end system because we're using 3G, whereas Egypt is still served by GSM. So then so we use GSM modules. That brings the cost of the module down to $5. So that would take maybe a $40, $50 BOM cost down to about maybe $20.
And that board is your design.
Yeah. So yeah, so I do my specialty is doing a lot of that kind of hardware and electronics, and software, I guess. But I'm not a hardcore software. I don't do a lot of maybe OS level stuff, but I do a lot of firmware and drivers. So, yeah. So okay, so that's you guys made it through. Hopefully you guys will wait. So I guess these are some of the other things going on out there, that you might be interested in. So gaming, we're interested in gaming, but not like video games, more like board games, card games. We're doing immersive gaming, where it's kind of LARP on steroids. So we have we basically recreate what a cell phone does, but there's no real screen. We just have we just track location and we track location and we have communications to a main server, and so when people come within proximity to something, then based on your character class, then it'll light up, and there might be an NFC card that you can read and it'll give you specific character skills or whatever.
That's crazy.
So
are you the only people doing this, or is that a movement?
I don't know. Actually,
it's more just because we want to go outside and play.
we have a lot of space. I think there are other people kind of doing similar things at parks and stuff, and so. But I think it's kind of interesting to play around. But it's awesome.
And then tying into that, we'll have a games carnival towards the end of the year where we basically have different tables of different board games, and then we'll demo that immersive gaming system there and see see how it goes.
No,
But that's really just because we like playing board games. We have,
The best reason ever.
and then you put in some electronics without actually adding another screen, just to sort of tinker around with that kind of element.
Well, I think it's interesting that because we live in an area where we don't necessarily have to work, and so we have extra time to do things that interest us also. So I think that's kind of important.
And it's not like we have a cinema very close to us, or 7-Eleven is a 10-minute drive, which in Japan is a big deal because it's usually every corner.
The fun thing to do is watch the cats and then touch things. So, we didn't expect it, but we as the community grew, we picked up more and more properties. So one of them is the cafe. We picked up our first cafe. It went bankrupt, and we got the cafe and we turned it into the community center. And now it's heavily used and we keep it as a central point between the various communities, because we have Hacker Farm, but there's also the permaculture community. There's an art village right behind us. There's the vegan macrobiotic group that they're very into kind of food as a holistic something. And so there's all these different communities and also the locals. And so I think we keep the cafe as a way for people to just see each other's face a lot. And the more they see each other's face, the more they
And there's also a permaculture project going on in front of the cafe because we've got quite a bit of space and room there. So that's kind of testing out some of the principles with the permaculture group.
And then, interestingly enough, right now, we're just getting to the point where we're building up the hackerspace because we built up the cafe, we had to repair all the properties that we get in order to house people, and interestingly enough, the hackerspace wasn't that crucial to building up Hacker Farm. And so,
How did you?
Huh?
How did you deal with it if you don't have a place to make stuff?
I think, we make stuff. Actually, you can almost say though that Hacker Farm is more at least what we did is when we went in there, the idea was okay, we can bring a lot of fabrication, culture, and technology stuff into place. But what was really needed, there were just more social issues and people issues. A lot of disconnected communities. There's not a lot of communications. When the cafe went bankrupt, then that was the only place where people could meet and hang out. The markets that they would hold there stopped. And so we're trying to bring those back. And actually, we brought those back, I guess.
But we do have tools. So if we need to build a table and stuff like that, we've got wood there, and so we have tools there. It's just that it's not necessarily the central place. Yeah. So the welding, for example, is at HBO, which is the guest house. But then most people have got their own soldering tools anyway. But the idea is here and next is to kind of build up more of a structure so that we've got sort of industrial sewing machines and different sorts of equipment.
Yeah, actually we share all of our tools. We share all of our tools, but most of it is geared towards kind of basic carpentry. What's it? The miter saws. Miter saws, light saws, impact drivers, drills, things like that. Because a lot of the things that in the countryside, you don't necessarily need to build a lot of you have to build amazing things. You actually have to two important things to understand is how to repair a house, how to reinstall a floor, how to do electrical wiring. And the other thing is cutting grass. You have to learn how to cut grass very well because grass grows fast, and the locals judge you based on how well you cut grass. So, if your shit
Sounds
is
like
manicured
America
and
to
looks
me.
good, that's what they do. They don't care how much
Care about your
skill.
equipment,
They don't care what you could have
ultra microscope. Who
yeah,
cares?
Nobel Peace Prize, whatever. It's well, can you cut grass? Your shit is messed up.
Which is kind of refreshing because it does bring it back to reality, what's important out there.
Grass cutting
is important.
Yeah. Because they want their stuff to look. They want it to look good, and if it's overgrown, then it looks like it's abandoned and people aren't there.
And but it's also there's snakes and there's kind of all animals and stuff like that. So we want to.
So it's really interesting that and then the fact that we maintain the properties and keep things well manicured means that locals will bring new properties that are available, like that might have been abandoned or whatever. They'll come to us and say, "Oh, we'll give you the locals price," which is like
If you cut the grass.
yeah. And that's how it,
That's how we got Farmer. The plot was you can use it for free. You just have to make sure that the grass it's maintained. And so we just chopped the grass in front of the gravestones, so that and then we have our one marked out. But that was the barter.
The second cafe that we're just getting right now is the same thing. Is we just cut the grass there. And, like cut the grass, pay the electricity,
the key.
and then you can use the cafe and all the equipment inside. Like, yes, thank you very much.
Just got it smoothed out.
Did you actually do any paperwork, or this is all like just word of mouth?
Just word of mouth. It's like it's based on your trust and standing in the community, which is much more important than any kind of paperwork. Because like if you lose, like in the countryside, if you lose like your reputation, and then it's difficult.
You spend a lot of time like in India and like in Mexico, and do you manage to cut the grass?
So we have calendars and schedules, so people would rotate. So so we cut the grass. But generally, I think in spring, every 4 to 6 weeks, spring and summer, and then as it gets closer to fall, then you can increase the times, and then winter, then everything dies, or everything just kind of withers away. And it comes back in the spring.
But you do kind of gauge it by whether the neighbours cut their grass. So you're like, oh, everybody get out there. So it is kind of.
There's so you start getting the feels and things like that.
Because a lot of the houses are owned by maybe one or two families, and so there's a really strong kind of familial trace through a lot of the properties. So it's and they're quite cautious of who goes there, and so we've had sort of people we rented an office space, and it was I'd prefer to rent it to someone who understands the language. So we're like, oh, Noriko, can you help us? So there is that kind of procedure that happens.
So another thing is we thought that having projects and technology and all that stuff would be great, but actually we're finding out that we need to work on all the basics. So it's finding housing for people, teaching them how building up a local economy, which means teaching them how to earn their own money, which means teaching basic business skills, basic finance, and also if they're designers, how they can use that in order to create a living for themselves. Outside of say a standard corporate structure, or even how to start their own company or corporation. So even that,
Delaware, C-Corp.
Actually, yeah, it's one thing is so we're going to start up a nonprofit, and so that's an incorporation, and we're going to just kind of teach everybody how to start up, how we go about doing the nonprofit, and then because I think that's important because that's basically you're incorporating, but it's just with with some extra paperwork. So, but that kind of stuff, which is basic finance and business skills, but it's non-existent in the area, or even people going there. And then and the big thing, which I'm sure you guys see for Maker Bay, is probably because you have all the equipment and everything else, but when it comes down to it, it's probably about the community. In my opinion, everything boils down to people. So if you have good people, then things go very smooth. And then but if you have people that don't understand how to control all the human drama, or you get politics and cliques and stuff like that, then things can go south really fast. Anyways, that's it. And,
Thank you.
You have questions from the online people? No, just a lot of smiles.
So anyways, any more questions?
We're missing the voice changer.
So why do you guys go out into the world with people call you and they say, hey, can you share some of your maker skills to the Internet of Shit in Egypt, or how does it happen?
I think the World Bank project came from a recommendation from one of the guys on Safecast, and then So World Bank, they were running hackathons in order to solve large world problems, and it's like, yeah, big data, and et cetera, et cetera. But then, and they're like, how does it translate into? So somebody just recommended me, and then they were talking about like, you know, and we were discussing this is over 6 months. Like we don't understand like how does this apply and how does and like so that was like just from the basics, like what's the problem? And then, okay, well maybe this is kind of how I tackle it. Is
a lot of also too when people are coming to Japan, they'll be looking for different spaces or maker spaces or hacker spaces, and farm or hacker farm will come up. So they'll say, "Can we come out? What are you doing?" And kind of that sort of thing as well. So a lot of it, to be honest, at the beginning has been international people coming out. Yeah, and so we also have collaborations with groups in Tokyo, like Tokyo Urban Farmers, where we run workshops with them, and Fab Cafes developing more as well. So that's taken, the local collaborations in Tokyo have taken a little bit longer to develop.
But I think,
but it's also a little bit opportunistic in the sense that we have been in Dharamsala before, and then with Mexico, Adrian was like, I want to take you, let's go out there, we can do this. So it's kind of more opportunistic than formalised.
Adrian already is working with those communities.
Yeah.
And so he wants to kind of show us that, like, show us those communities, and also, and then, like, how we could work with them, and how we could teach them and they could teach us. But I think there's, like, it actually goes both ways, because they have, like, a lot of farming methods that would be really unique to Mexico.
Yeah. So there's a good exchange. Like, we get as much out of what's happening there as we hopefully bring.
Well, I mean, like, one interesting area is, like, the way they seed bank. So they seed bank all the kind of the traditional seeds and crops that grow, because it's like they're losing a lot of the traditional crops, due to industrial farming, and they view that as part of their culture and heritage. And I think that's a really interesting thing to learn too. Like, I don't hear that too much in Japan. I think that'd be something interesting to bring back, or even just spread that concept.
And it's interesting too, because the Farm Lab plot is actually on the side of the road, and so people will drive past, slow down, and stare at us because the farming methods are quite different to what they're used to.
Because you have an 85-year-old guy that's like a group of people
No, just plugging
Jacinta stands out like a sore thumb because she's just like fully in her hat and everything, and she's like fully covered up because like she turns pink in the sun. And then so like everybody recognizes her. Oh, that's the foreign girl that's like floating.
But then the old farmers, because they're actually really encouraging, because it's for them, it's younger generations out there on the field, and they stop by and drop us food, and I'm going, thank you, who are you? So it's kind of, it's quite visible, so I think it gets quite a bit of attention just by the location of it.
You mentioned the 2 areas of potential collaboration, like the group trip in India and the other one in Mexico. What would you see happen, and what do you think it would like produce?
Oh, I mean, I think that'd be like one of the areas that'd be really interesting to work together in, because I think first of all, I think the benefit for people like say at Hacker Farm or here is that you can go to like kind of different countries and like. But it's more of a friendly introduction where you go and you already kind of have a network of people around. And then, because it's like if you wanted to go visit, like, say, rural Mexico and like see, and even like, see how like fair trade farms work, or, what's the supply chain for like, say, coffee, then it wouldn't be easy because there's no like tour that you can go on. So, but then if you go there, then you're kind of embedded into the scene already. So I think that'd be kind of interesting from that point of view. And then from the part of like what can be done out there is like, like there's all types of things, from like manual labor, teaching, education, workshops, giving talks, like exposing people in rural Mexico or exposing people in like in the Himalayas and Dharamsala to things that are happening outside, like maybe in Hong Kong. And then they can also be teaching, this is stuff. Like in Dharamsala, they get hacked by state hackers all the time.
Really?
Because that's where the Dalai Lama is and the Tibetan community in exile. So basically, China, like, so I guess all. Anyways, from my sources tell me. So they get they have, one of the reasons we started Hill Hacks was to bring security researchers out to Dharamsala because they needed some serious or just like
For
more like help in security, information security. And so we did it in conjunction with like CCC.
But I think one of the things, based on sort of chatting with Aki and Chris, is where the focus is for some of the groups here and where there's kind of overlap. So that was, because again, it comes back to the context, like what's the purpose? And so we were also kind of interested to hear more about some of the things that you're doing here and what you kind of want to develop and then see how some of this might tie in and that sort of stuff.
But, and also, I think, like, just from Jacinta, she speaks on talking about Maker Bay.
The bio.
So,
I have my little bio.
It sounds like there's a good ethos here. And so I think it's good to work with hackerspaces that aren't just interested in technology. You know? So I think, I think technology with a purpose is much more interesting to me than just like pure technology. Which, I think so. Like in that case, because we're interested mainly in context, and so we're trying. You know, so I think Maker Bay has like a lot of context because you guys do a lot of interesting stuff too. So.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Maybe we want to continue the discussion in a more interactive way.
Oh yeah.
What gives you the inspiration to start the Hacker Forum?
I think like aside from the fact that I was tired of living in the city, I actually really wanted to learn a lot more about where my food comes from. Because like before then, I would think the food comes from the store. But actually, like truthfully, it doesn't happen that way. It's much more complicated than that. And so like it's difficult to trace back food. And finally, when you trace it all back, then you trace it back to the farm and how things were growing. And if you live in the city, you don't get to see that. And I wanted to understand that more.
Are you in a position where you can bring
Is that okay? It's like,
he's taking it, it's like, are you conscious you can actually sustain yourself? You can grow your own food?
We're growing our own food, yeah.
Like
so,
orders?
Oh,
yeah,
I
so
mean,
last year we were.
But I don't think
that's like
I don't.
tomatoes.
But we're not food sustainable. Not yet. So I think the longer term goal, like just the person, like this, the goals for our community in Hacker Farm is at least to make the hackerspace zero net energy, and also I don't know, like food sustainability for the community.
The thing is, it comes back to what kind of food you can easily grow and you still need to get from the store. But during summer, we weren't going to the store to get lots of stuff. We were going to get meat because we just picked. We were having a lot of salads, so your eating habits change based on what's available. And for this year, we've got quite a big plot of land with lots of potatoes and lots of.
That's like holy crap.
Yeah. So the idea though is that for me, I really wanted strawberries and blueberries and things like that. So we kind of grow the things that we want to eat, but it's a bit of an experiment. We'll see how we get on farm.
Do you have a site?
Hackerfarm.jp.
Okay.
It's hackerfarm.japan.
Yeah.
But also like when you start growing food, then you end up like with boom and bust. So like during the harvest season, you just have a huge amount of food, and that's when you're like, oh, so this is why people like they preserve food. Like so you have like so much. And actually, it's really understandable then, like how cultures develop around like kind of the preserved foods.
Yeah.
So like like cheese, preserved milk, and then pickles are preserved vegetables, and like you just have so much that you don't want to, and you put so much work into growing it that you just don't want to waste it. So you start pickling it.
You're doing a lot of that too?
Yeah, we're trying to learn more about it, and like so, Jacinta is more she's more active in like learning the growing stuff. And then I'm just like, like she would just come, like she'd be like shoveling poop all day and like and like hauling it in the pickup truck, and then afterwards she'd come back and then be like poo on her hair and like, oh, give me a hug.
That's how you separate projects.
It's nearly really composted. But this is the other thing, like the value of materials changes.
She's like, oh, the bullshit is nearly composted. She like sticks her hands in, like, oh yeah, this feels like, so it's about ready. I think we can start growing now. It's like it's not too dry. It's like it's still moist.
But you start looking at the bamboo and you're like, yeah, we need some more bamboo for the beds, and where can we get the momigado? So this idea of
rice husks.
the rice husks. So, but this idea of the biggest thing is collating all the materials, and it's there and it's freely available, and that's what's kind of interesting because you get into this cycle of I guess.
You start really admiring. Like I admire cow poop right now, and to the point where like when people say bullshit, I'm like that's kind of derogatory to like.
Thank you.
Like bullshit is actually very useful. Like this is bullshit. This is useful.
Yeah. It's very humbling.
Now more and more people are living in the cities, right?
Living in
more and more people are living in the city.
Yeah.
And so the technology that you are, or the technology or say, like social mechanisms that you are developing are according to maybe like your statistics, maybe they are kind of going to be serving more and more minority. Or do you think that your building is like the way of living in the future?
Not necessarily. I think it's alternative. Like, I guess there's different opinions, but in my opinion, I think we're presenting an alternative lifestyle. And so there's, like, when you make the choice to live in a city, then you make a lot of other choices beyond that too. Because if you live in a city, then your costs are higher.
Yeah.
And so how are you going to maintain those costs? So like you might, if you choose to live in the city, you might need to get a job in order to live in the city. You have a higher cost structure in order to deal with it. Maybe you go out more to relieve stress. And so like, but you might need to live in the city. You might want to live in the city. And then if you live in the countryside, then your cost structure will be less. You don't necessarily need a normal job, or like if you're starting like your own product, your own venture, and you need a long runway, then that might be like one way you go too. And so, I mean, there's a lot of different benefits. I think the idea is like just, there's a lot of choices.
I think one of the things we're trialing in some ways, which we wrote an article about, was, okay, what's the sort of lifestyle that you want, and then building a business or building finances around it that support that versus I'm living in the city, these are my costs, and now how can I meet those costs? So, and actually even in Tokyo, we were talking before, there seems to be a lot more momentum towards urban farming to doing, so there's a little bit of a trend going back to the source of where your food comes from. And I guess maybe it's a little bit tapping into that as well, but it's, if you've got time and you've got sort of a longer runway, then you can work on the projects that you sort of are interested in.
We're big proponents of like setting up lifestyle businesses, which I think is like kind of a bad word in like Silicon Valley. But I think, I think it's really good because because if you set up a business that funds your lifestyle, I think that allows you to be much healthier. And so we travel, so we schedule our workshops and our talks and stuff like that in places where we can also visit our families or and then we travel around the places that we want to. I think and we work on the projects that we want to. And we don't necessarily need to do millions of dollars per month or per year or whatever. Our fixed costs in the countryside are very low. So so we can kind of
freedom.
But how that translates for each person is going to be individual depending on where they are and what their priorities are.
So it's pretty interesting. I mean, it's
Work in
interesting
progress.
how it shapes your life. So, and it's been a weird ride, but also very rewarding so far.
So you guys are traveling as a what you are, like 4 people, or you just happen to be in town at the same time?
We're friends.
Oh yeah. Actually, so we were up in Shenzhen. So she was teaching some workshops. We were handling some manufacturing stuff, and then they also build stuff out in Shenzhen. So David is he does a lot of stuff at MIT Media Lab. He's former alum, and then Fuji does a lot of stuff with hacks and also is manufacturing his own products. So, but yeah, I mean, I think because your proximity to Shenzhen, then you guys must have a big manufacturing place out here too.
We're here with kind of trying.
Oh, really?
Well, I think like we're in Shenzhen, like you're really in the heart of it, and it's really happening, and you cannot avoid being part of it. It seems almost.
Oh yeah, it's super exciting to be in Shenzhen. That's why I had to come back. I was like San Francisco. They talk about all the stuff they build, but they don't actually do anything. And it's like, I don't know. I had to get out of that environment and come back to Shenzhen. It's like I get to be in a playground over here.
Yeah, things move really, really fast. You can do whatever to give an idea, you can get it done really fast.
Yeah, and yeah, my new session is like electric unicycles and segways and stuff like that. And yeah, I want to get into that, area. So, and then I heard you guys did electric vehicles, and I'm like, oh god, I got to know people in this industry. I'm new to it. I'm just excited about it. So, Shenzhen is a good place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think,
Thank you. Story. Thank you.
yeah, I think we are going to wrap up this public session. And, but before I officially wrap this up, any other questions for these folks? Because I kind of asked them very last minute. I didn't expect them to have this much preparation. Thank you. No, thank you so much. We were like, oh, shall we have lunch? Yes. Oh, shall we have a talk?
All right,
So-
maybe this one will work.
But that was recorded. Yeah, I cut it.
Yeah,
sorry,
well,
sorry.